Hi everybody, Al the Doctor Who here. This will be the fifth take that I'm doing. A reply basically to Silly Tom's video warning because apparently he was watching a couple of videos on Vloggerheads pertaining to death. And this is a subject that I think everybody wrestles with, and I know I certainly did. Because what my as most of you guys know about me, I'm extremely spiritual, and there's a good reason why. I have a remarkable memory from when I was a child, and when I say remarkable, I remember the first time I became aware of myself. I was laying on my mother's bed, looking up at the ceiling, and I had pajamas on, and I just didn't like the idea that I had these the pajamas had a connecting sock to it, and it made my feet feel like there wasn't enough air getting to it, so I didn't like it. I was very uncomfortable with the idea that I had these pajamas with the built-in sock, and what I recall right then, obviously I couldn't speak because I didn't know how to speak yet, but the thought was there. So my first thinking, the first thing I thought about was, who am I? Now that could come as maybe, where am I? Or, but I have to say, I really thought I wanted to know who I was. It was a strong feeling that I was somebody before I became aware. So I was trying very hard to remember what happened before I became aware of where I was then, if that makes any sense. So, and then I remember this had to be between the age of maybe 2.5 to 5. Because 5 is when I moved from the house, and I didn't start kindergarten yet. Kindergarten, you had to start at 5. So, and we were living on 78th Street and Newtrick Avenue in Bensonhurst. We lived in an apartment. And it seemed like a very, very long stretch of time. Like what Silly Tom was mentioning is that when you're younger, the time seems to go slow. And then as you get older, exponentially it gets wider and wider and wider. I could tell you my summer vacations from school felt like 3 months felt like close to a year to me today, believe it or not. And it just seems to be that way, that the time goes by much, much quicker as you get older. And that's another thing that I wanted to bring to Silly Tom's attention. And most of you guys might agree with me. When you reach this point, you realize that mentally you don't feel any older. Your mind retains its youth. It's just that your physical body reminds you that you're getting older. But as you get older, you just always look at it as not being old at all. Your mind retains that youthfulness. And I'll be honest with you. There's been quite a few times when I realize I do have limitations, because most of the time I act like as if I don't, and you do realize that. I remember one time I was working in this place, I'm a mechanic. I used to work for this place installing car radios, car alarms, and also telephones. When the cell phones just started coming out, they used to have these big boxes that you mount in the car. So, but they really wanted me to be their mechanic, and I didn't want to do that because I played the guitar and I didn't want to mess up my hands. So I moved from motorcycle mechanic to this, and I thought the radio installation and phone installation was a lot less risky with the playing. So anyway, I tried to jump over this fence, this little chain link, because I thought I could do it. And I did, but I almost fell on my face because when I got up at the top of the thing, my foot barely made the chain. So once I got on top of the chain, I went one of these things, and I went forward, and I realized that my knees weren't going to allow me to go up as high as I used to. I used to be able to jump over fences like a gazelle, But I think at that age, we were in Staten Island, so that means that had to be around 80. I would say 80. 85. No, 86. 1986. So I was born in 52. So 86. You do the math. So, anywho, I started to realize that we could definitely get hurt, and you have to try to take care of yourself. That's all there is to it, And we can forget sometimes, hey, it's more than taking your vitamins. It's an attitude also. When I was a child, I used to meditate. And I didn't even know I was meditating. I used to rock myself to sleep, back and forth in the bed, like this. And I would kind of dream, the dream state, would meditate. And a lot of the things that I was meditating about came about. They started to happen because I was thinking in a positive way. So a lot of the things that I thought about, I can't really mention what they were, but they came true. And one time I really got scared. The first time I felt, and I know nothing about astral planning. I was dreaming. I was sitting on. This was in 51st Street, and in Brooklyn. That would be Bay Ridge, and that timeline had to be after 5 years old, so I would say it happened around between 6 and 7. I was sitting on we lived in a brownstone, and I think my mother paid. My mother and father bought the house for something like $7,000. That was a lot of money back then. And I was sitting on the steps, and I was pretending I was in a helicopter. And I started thinking about it, and I said, oh man. All of a sudden I was I thought it was outer space, but there were no stars. But I was going further and further out, I was going really far out, and it got very scary. So I just turned around and came back, and then I found myself on the stairs. I went downstairs to tell my mother. I says, Mom. Then I stopped myself. I said, she's going to think I'm totally crazy, or she won't believe me. That's my thoughts. My thoughts at the time was that there's no way she's going to believe me. And just about that time, I started to also understand, and I had a little bit of anxiety. And the anxiety was strange because I used to be able to focus, and I still do. It's just that I avoid dwelling on it because it doesn't do me any good. I could feel the skin on my bones and the muscles and everything like that. Parts of my body I could tune into, The ones that have pain, like my back, I kind of try to tune it out. But, you can't get into it too much. If you get into it too much, it'll drive you out of your mind. You just can't do that. But I was always trying to figure out what we were doing here. That was another thing too. I think that's probably the main question that's on everybody's mind. What are we doing here? And the thing that I didn't like, and especially when it comes to godliness, I didn't understand the reason for creating a situation where you have bad things. We're on a planet where we have to eat all living things. And I don't think initially they say that we're not carnivores initially, but it was disturbing to me that a higher being would create a situation where we had to actually, in order to survive, eat other living things. So that leads me to believe one very important thing, to me at least, is that this is not all there is. And that's how I really feel that. So when Silly Tom says that he doesn't have no fear of dying, what it's basically saying to me, because I'm reflecting off of what he's saying, and I feel the same way. Deep down, we know that this is not all there is. So, it's on a spiritual level. Who knows, where we actually came from. My hypothesis is that there is a higher consciousness level, probably in dark matter or dark energy somewhere out there, where spiritual beings exist that we cannot see. Probably somewhere in the 11th dimension, or it's on a higher level that we're not able to understand. That's for sure. And ever since the Big Bang, I guess that was the beginning of creation, as far as from what we can understand, because the physical nature of our bodies relied on that Big Bang for all the elements to come to this point. So that's my feeling on it, but it's just a feeling, So anyway, I'm gonna end it here. It's 11:19, and if you guys want to comment, feel free to do so. I missed the interaction, and keep it short if you can, because I don't like to bounce around. I remember I will bounce around because that's the way I think, So I'll jump from one spot to another and probably miss something. Now when I look at this, I'll probably see something I don't like, and that will trigger me not to post it, but I think I will post this. So I'll catch you guys later. Happy New Year. And see, I had to think about that. Happy New Year to you guys, and I think I might be posting something else up. So love you all. Be cool. Bye-bye.